Hi folks, we're just looking at this book, Alister McGrath, Why Won't God Go Away, published by SPCK. Hope everybody's okay. And the book is critiquing Christopher Hitchens. Alister McGrath says about Christopher Hitchens, God is not great is by far the most entertaining of the new atheist works. It's driven by a passionate anger about religion and questionably fueled by the events of 9/11, but it reveals a deeper anxiety which I believe underlines the work of other new atheist writers as well, namely the obstinate refusal of religion to die out as predicted by secular theories since the 1960s. God just won't go away. Hitchens' alarmist rhetoric appeals to a subconscious fear within the Western liberal intellectual elite. We are losing the battle for social dominance. Religion is resurgent. Atheists and skeptics are in mortal danger. As Hitchens warns his readers in one of his most outspoken and unsubstantiated pronouncements, people of faith are in their different ways planning your and my destruction. To Hitchens' devotees, this is what 9/11 is all about. We must resist religion before it breaks further havoc upon us. God is Not Great is a remarkable piece of theatre, characterized by its quick-fire comments and finely honed insults. Hitchens uses the brightest colours in his palette and his broadest brush strokes to paint a vivid picture of religion as dysfunctional, depraved and decadent. Written in some case 4 months, the book shows what some might uncharitably see as obvious signs of inconsistency and a lack of evidential and argumentative integrity. But nobody can doubt Hitchens' commitment to his beliefs or deny his skill as a wordsmith. He has a wonderful ear for good phrases such as religion poisons everything. Even more strikingly, as we have already noted, religion kills. The faults of the world are to be laid at the door of primitive superstitions that hold us back from our rational and scientific destiny. Eliminate religion, which has led only to violence, intellectual dishonesty, oppression and social division, and the world would be a better place. God is Not Great is written with such conviction and confidence that a self-assured assurance alone were indication of truth. Hitchens would win his argument hands down. He has a marvellous way of persuading his readers that his analysis of some core religious ideas is skimpy on account of their intrinsic irrationality, rather than any inability on his part to handle them properly. For example, the chapter boldly entitled "The metaphysical claims of religion are false" skims the surface of a potentially interesting debate, leaving us unsure what the metaphysical claims might be or what's wrong with them. But at least we come away knowing that Hitchens thinks they're merely so much donkey poo along the road of life. It's not exactly an argument, is it? I've often discussed Hitchens' oracular writing style with his more enthusiastic supporters, who tend to take the line that he's such a genius that he does not need to waste his time exploring religion in depth. He's declared that they're ridiculous and that's good enough for them. The conclusion is that what matters, there is no need to explain how it was reached. But is it rational to treat Hitchens as some kind of guru, to trust the person rather than the arguments or evidence? I wonder if some of his devotees, having stopped believing in God, find they simply have to trust and worship someone else. To return to these metaphysical claims we mentioned above, it seems to me they have not been properly engaged, let alone damaged by Hitchens. But his devotees won't have this. Hitchens has spoken and the matter is settled. Another interesting feature of God is Not Great is the way Hitchens cherry-picks historical anecdotes. That's typical of new atheism, to make his case. His use of historical evidence is shaped by the controlling story, often referred to as meta-narrative, that is a characteristic feature of the new atheism. Above all, the idea those who entertain religious belief are deluded and hence potentially dangerous to society at large. I find myself wondering why his appeal to history is so selective and self-serving. Doesn't he realize that his opponents would use exactly the same technique to make the opposite point? Let us look at one of the anecdotes Hitchens weaves into his account of the irrational and immoral idiocy of religious thinkers. The Christian writer Timothy Dwight, 1752 to 1811, who was president of Yale College, Connecticut, later to become Yale University, opposed smallpox vaccination. For Hitchens, this is typical of religious people. They're backward-looking fools, and Dwight's ridiculous position just shows how religious obscurantism stood in the way of scientific advance then, as it continues to do now. Religion poisons all attempts at human progress. The specific example confirms the general principle. Well, Dwight did indeed oppose smallpox vaccination, but Hitchens forgets to mention, if he knew it all, that an early president of Princeton, Jonathan Edwards, now widely regarded as America's greatest religious thinker, had died a few decades earlier, in 1758, after receiving the vaccine. As a strong supporter of scientific evidence,